It's interesting because I've always believed that it's okay to do things scared, and I still do. I firmly
Yeah.
believe that we all have to do things scared. I think that's the only way for us to really move forward in life. I was scared to leave my husband. I did it scared. I was scared to jump my horse. I did it scared. And then I went, okay, now like I need to move past the fear. So I think fear is a really important thing for all of us.
I'm Tiffany Gilliland, your host of the Business Bravery Podcast. I'm an Australian business and mindset coach and marketing service provider with 13 years of experience in online marketing. I help coaches sign clients and grow their business with more confidence and less stress using my Business Bravery framework. It's all about simple steps that actually work so you can build a profitable business that lights you up and feels sustainable. Before we dive in, I want to invite you to join me for Brave Coffee Connections, my free monthly Zoom gathering for coaches and service-based business owners. It's not another networking pitch fest. Instead, you'll connect through powerful questions, small group conversations, and a short visualization to set you up for the month ahead. These deeper connections often lead to collaborations, referrals, and even new clients. Find out more about this free monthly Zoom gathering at tiffanygstudios.com/connections. That's tiffanygstudios.com/connections. I'd love to see you there. In this episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Nicki Laberge, a divorce coach for women who helps them reclaim their lives and thrive after divorce. With nearly 20 years of experience as a mortgage broker, Nicki saw firsthand the challenges women face during big life transitions. Now she combines her own story, her background in psychology, and her training in trauma-informed root cause therapy to support women through the emotional and practical sides of divorce. In our conversation, Nicki shared what it really takes to face fear and find your strength. From starting over after divorce, to shifting careers, to even getting back on a horse after a tough fall. We talked about how bravery in personal life connects with bravery in business and how reframing challenges can open the door to growth and confidence. With that said, this is an amazing episode and I can't wait to share with you Nicki's stories of business bravery, past, present, and future. Now, who's ready for some business bravery inspiration? Let's dive in. I am super excited to dive into bravery this week with my amazing guest, Nicki Laberge, and I'm super excited to get into all things talking. Actually, that sounds a bit weird. Talking about divorce and being a divorce coach. But I think like the bravery of going through a divorce and then the bravery of what we do in business and all of that kind of thing, I think that there's definitely correlations there. So I'm excited to just see things from a different perspective and take what lessons we can learn. So Nicki, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your stories of bravery with us today and your insights and experiences. Tell us a bit more about yourself and who you help and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Tiffany. I'm excited to be here as well. And I know it always sounds silly to say I'm excited to talk about divorce, but having gone through it personally, I know how difficult it can be and how challenging it is. And I do get excited to help women move through the challenging piece of it because what's on the other side is where the excitement is. So, as silly or weird as it sounds, it is actually exciting to get to the other side of divorce, which is a really brave thing to do. It's brave to choose divorce, whether it was your choice or not. How we handle it, how we decide to come out the other side is brave.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm glad that that made sense to you here in the room because as I was saying it, I was like, oh, that could be completely insensitive for someone if they're like in the middle of it and it's, perhaps they're not at the place where there's the hope or that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm glad that that
Yeah,
makes
and
sense. Mm.
yeah, and to kind of expand on that a bit more and what I do. So as a divorce coach for women, it's a lot of reframing,
Mm.
right? When we're in that space and the divorce is new, it doesn't always feel exciting. We don't feel brave. We don't feel any of those positive things. And so I come in as a divorce coach to help them see that they are being brave and to help them see what is out there for them and how they can get there.
Mm. Oh my gosh. That that feels so powerful and that really resonates with me. Just that whole, helping people see that they are being brave and that they can move forward through difficult times and challenges. I think that's something that can resonate with everybody no matter their situation. So, oh, that's so powerful. So tell us a little bit about what brave things you are working on in your business and life.
I feel like every day is just a new test of my bravery right now. The coaching piece is definitely a newer thing for me. So I've been a mortgage broker for 18 years. And over that time, my niche market really just seemed to get narrowed down. I spent a lot of time helping women. Then it was a lot of time helping women going through a divorce with their mortgages. And what I realized was just hearing their stories over and over and the similarities to my story and other people in my life who have gone through it. And the stories were just so similar. And that's what ultimately led me to make the really big, brave decision to become a divorce coach for women. So that was my first piece of getting really brave because being doing one thing for 18 years, it is really hard to wake up one day and go, I'm going to do something different now. So that would be the first piece of it. And then it's all getting out of your comfort zone or getting out of my comfort zone. So every day I'm doing something different. I'm doing something I didn't do in my mortgage business. I'm doing something that's just new and scary. And I just kind of have to keep getting up and doing it all over every day.
Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. So, like when you were doing that shift from mortgage brokering to getting into divorce coaching, like what were some of the perhaps perspective shifts or something? Like what like was your brain kind of saying, oh, like did it have some little fun thoughts or whispers or anything like that? Like how did that go? So,
Oh, it was yelling at me a lot, saying, like, what are you doing? You should not be doing this. Stick to what you know. What are you thinking? It was very vocal. It was very loud.
mm,
And I just kept pushing forward because something else was a little quieter to start, but it just kept saying, no, just keep going. No,
mm,
just keep going. And slowly over the months, the loud voice telling me, like, yelling at me, what are you doing? Has gotten quieter. And the voice that said, keep going. This is right for you. Got a little bit louder. So
mm.
it's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so powerful that you had that voice saying, "Oh no, just keep going. Just keep going." Like, is that a voice that has like come up for you in other areas of life or other experiences? Has that helped you in the past?
Absolutely. I probably first started listening to it when I came to the decision to leave my marriage. I think it had been there for a while and I wasn't ready. I talked myself out of it over and over and over and told myself things would get better, things would change. And then one day I really decided to listen to that voice inside that was saying, no, it's time. The time is now. And so that was really the first piece. And then had multiple times. I bought a horse 3 years ago and got back into riding. And the
Mm,
number of times that the loud voice is going, what are you doing? What made you think you could do this in your mid 40s? Have you lost your mind? And the quieter voice was going, you love this. This brings you so much joy. Just keep going. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fall off. It's okay to, not get everything perfect. And I actually just finished a really big clinic a couple of weeks ago with an instructor who I took a clinic from in the fall. And I actually cried during my session with my horse, and he had to shut his microphone off because the tears started, because the loud voice was being louder than the quiet voice in that moment. And I found out yesterday that he actually commented on my progress and how far I had come and how much braver I was and more confident I was. So sometimes we have to really pay attention to that voice. Just because it's not as loud doesn't mean it's not the right one.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. And in fact, like the this that whole you being braver on the horse. I mean, I remember like in our coffee chat call, you talked about a situation where you'd actually had fallen off the horse previously. So that must be like, can you you share that?
Yeah.
See like exactly how brave that is and how like that progress. Yeah.
Yeah, he turfed me pretty good that day. We were going towards a jump and we had jumped it numerous times already. So I'd already kind of jumped it in my mind, which was my mistake because I anticipated, just like my coach said, it was like half an inch. Like I moved like half an inch and half a second early, and he just put the brakes on and spun and went the other way. And I did the full flip over the head, landed on a jump that didn't break. My back broke the fall, And I remember my coach coming over because I was now crumpled in the dirt and asking, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah," but I didn't move. And she said, can you feel your legs? Can you move your toes?" And I said, "Yeah," still didn't move. And she's like, "Okay, did you get the wind knocked out of you?" "No," still didn't move. "Did you hit your head?" "No." And she's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm 45 years old and I just hit the dirt for the first time in 20 plus years. Like, I just need a second. I need a minute." And then, of course, I had to get back on the horse because we all know that's what you have to do. So not only was I in pain, and I now had to get on the horse that not only did he turf me, he also left me in the dirt. Like, he was long gone. So someone had to go get him and bring him back to me and put me back on the horse. And then I had to jump that jump both ways and until my coach was essentially happy. And I did it, but I cried almost the entire time. And it was, yes, part in pain, but it was also fear.
Mm.
And I did take, well, not really a break, but I had to give my back time to heal. So once we were done that, my coach actually rode him for a couple times just to give my back some time to heal. And then the first time I jumped after that, I remember her saying, "Why are you riding like a sack of potatoes?" And I just remember being like, "Because I'm scared." She's like, "Well, you can't ride scared. Like, you can't ride scared." And it
Yeah.
was just like, click, I can't ride scared. Okay, let's go, buddy. And
Mm.
yeah, and then in that moment, something just shifted. Yeah. And I mean, I can give examples of what my horse has taught me all day long. So I have another one. If it comes up later, great.
Yeah, no, I just really wanted to bring that story up because I don't know, I just think like that's so relatable to everyone. I think we can all imagine situations where it's like, everything was going fine and then suddenly it's like you're either like metaphorically or literally in the dirt going, what happened? One minute I was up, next minute,
Yeah,
this isn't how I thought it was going to turn out. And then like that bravery, and I can just really like empathize and just resonate with that whole I'm riding but I'm crying, but then you're in this situation where you can't ride scared because I imagine it affects the horse, right? And then he could throw you again. Is that how that
absolutely.
works?
And
Yeah.
he thought about it. Like, he stopped at the jump the first probably
Yeah.
3 or 4 times we approached it once I got back on
Mm.
because he was scared, right? So now we both had a traumatic experience at this jump because this is the first time I'd fallen off of him.
Mm.
And, I mean, that's a scary thing for a horse too. So
Yeah.
he was scared. I was scared. We feed off each other. And so credit to my coach
Yeah.
for sticking with me and helping me dig deep and get us both essentially over that fence, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You talked about that shift of like, you were crying and then the coach said you can't ride scared and you're like, right, I can't ride scared. Has that like experience, have you brought that into like areas of your business or like I can imagine having gone through that, like that power to be able to just be like, okay, enough with the fear. Let's do this. Like, has that come up in areas of life or business since you went through that?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've always believed that it's okay to do things scared, and I still do. I firmly
Yeah.
believe that we all have to do things scared. I
Mm.
think that's the only way for us to really move forward in life. I was scared to leave my husband. I did it scared. I was scared to jump my horse. I did it scared. And then
Mm.
I went, okay, now like I need to move past the fear. So I think fear is a really important thing for all of us. It teaches us so much about ourselves, about the situations we're in. And
Yeah.
it's just understanding that fear and then knowing when do you do things scared and when do you just leave the fear behind and move on. And I think they're both really important pieces.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely from my perspective, like I know like I've often said, like for me, my approach to bravery is like I'm the person you come to when feel the fear and do it anyway isn't working, right? Like because I think there's some situations where you can just be like, yep, I'm afraid, but I can still take actions. But then there's other times where, like from my perspective, it's like the subconscious is just really digging in and it's just like, oh, it's so hard and it's like got to take the tiniest of steps to move forward. And so sometimes you kind of gotta bring a little bit of the fear with you and just be like, okay, but I hear you, fear, but we're doing this anyway. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've really had to do in the coaching starting the coaching business,
Mm,
the coaching side,
yeah.
is because one of the first things I did, or not had to do, but chose to do, was reach out to lawyers that I worked with on the mortgage side for the last 18 years and say, hey, guess what I'm doing now? And that was really scary because I didn't want them to not think of me for mortgages anymore, but I wanted to have them also think of me for this because it has been a transition. So yeah, there's definitely fear. And I think you're right. And I think we're seeing kind of the same thing. There are times that fear is a good thing, and there are times that it isn't. And
Yeah,
it's just understanding those parts of it.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, would you mind telling us a little bit more about one of those first conversations you had to go through with one of the mortgage brokers and like actually like that moment when you had to be like, "Hey, so you've known me for this, but now I do this other thing," and perhaps even facing the judgment of that? Like how did that go?
It was interesting, and I've gotten mixed reactions. Some lawyers have kind of been like, yeah, okay. Like they didn't care about the divorce coaching piece
Yeah.
and just cared about the mortgage side. Well, can we still refer you mortgage clients? What's happening on this side? And ignored everything else, which is
Yeah.
fine, right? Everyone's allowed to have their own
Mm,
response and reaction to things. And then I've had amazing feedback from other lawyers where they're like, oh, this seems like such a natural progression for you. I'm so happy. Let me know how I can support you. And I mean, they're still asking, are you still doing mortgages? Which again is completely fair,
yeah.
but it's just a more of a supportive,
Mm,
yes, this is great. How can I help? Kind of a
mm,
response.
yeah, yeah. Oh. Yeah, the reason I asked that is because like I spent the first year of my business like because I had my part-time day job and in doing marketing and that kind of stuff, and then I had like I was building my business on the side, and at the time my first foray into business was like doing photography and video work. And yeah, like I just was too scared to tell anybody that it's like, hey, you've known me for this. And like I couldn't tell anybody in the real world, anybody who knew me. I was so scared of that judgment for like the first year. Like I told strangers on the internet and I got clients and everything, but people who knew me for one thing, yeah, it was really hard to let them in on, hey, I'm doing this other thing. Yeah. My
Well,
self-esteem
and
is not at the right place then.
just to be perfectly transparent and honest, I spent the first 2 months reaching out to lawyers I didn't know. And
Right.
then I got brave and went, this is ridiculous, Nikki. Reach out to the people that already know and like you. You can
Yeah.
do this. And also in my personal life, I still have not shared much like on my social media, on my personal pages. There
Yeah.
are still many, many people in my life that don't know I've transitioned over to this or am transitioning over to this. So I
Mm.
still have some places I need to step up being brave in.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think that's how bravery goes. I don't, I mean, unless like there's something different in somebody's brain, you're unlikely to wake up and just be like, yes, I'm going to be the bravest, complete version of myself and do all of the brave things. Like, I mean, even if you get that enthusiasm, like, I think it wears off after, a week or two and then, or, maybe a little longer. And then you come like your brain wants to come back to who you've always been unless you do the work to really move into that new identity. So
Yeah,
yeah.
you have to build up your capacity or like that upper limit, right? So
Mm.
you can
Yeah.
only handle so much bravery. At least I can, right? I can only I once
Mm.
I've done a certain number of things that I consider brave, I'm like, oh, that's it. That's all I can do today or this week, or like I've hit my limit. And
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, next time I can push a little bit more because I've increased that capacity. I've increased that tolerance. I've pushed that upper limit up a bit more.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I haven't talked about it like this in this way, but I have that like, some days it's just like I thought I was going to do all of these brave things and it's like, you know what? The two brave things that I've done today, that's enough. Or the one brave thing that I've done, like that's enough. So yeah. And the same for like weeks and months. It's just there's one version of me that can see all the potential and we can do everything. And then there's the me actually doing it, like after the planning. It's like, yeah, I think this is what we can handle right now. So Do you have any tips? Like, how do you, like, I mean, either mentally prepare for like pushing the upper limit or, or like, what's your process there or any tips for anybody?
Yeah, it's a lot of actually what I teach or what I coach around women with their divorce. And it's
Yeah.
just really understanding ourselves and being able to know what we're feeling and why we're feeling it. So I talk a lot when I'm working with women going through divorce about what they're feeling in their bodies, because so many of us live our lives from the neck up, right? We think our way through absolutely everything, but we
Yeah.
can only think our way through so much. We can only think our way to being so brave. Whereas to really push past that upper limit or build that capacity, I feel like we have to be able to drop down into our body and be like, okay, why does this feel so scary? What am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? Where is it coming from? And if we
Yeah.
can kind of identify those things in our bodies, then we can understand it and
Yeah.
then we get to push through it.
Let me take a quick break from today's episode to invite you to something special I've created for you. It's called Brave Coffee Connections. This is a free monthly Zoom gathering for coaches and service-based business owners. It's not another awkward networking event. Instead, it's about creating genuine connections that can lead to collaborations, referrals, and even new clients. Here's how it works. We start with a powerful question to spark brave moves in your business. You'll reflect for a few minutes, then connect with like-minded coaches and service providers in a breakout room to share and be inspired. We do 2 rounds so you meet different people and get fresh perspectives. Then we end with a short visualization to wire your brain for success, and each of us commits to one brave action for the month ahead. Every month we focus on a different theme like bravery, money, or visibility, and it's all about connecting on a deeper level without the pressure or the pitch. You can grab your free spot at tiffanygstudios.com/connections. That's TIFFANY G for golf, studios.com/connections. I look forward to seeing you there. Oh, oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, sorry. Like that must be really powerful to like for like navigating a divorce or that like big relationship change as well. Like I don't know, this feels like the right question to ask. I don't know if it lines up with everything, but it's like how does that help your clients like by moving into their bodies to navigate that shift for them? Because I imagine up until working with you, a lot of them have been stuck in their heads trying to think through things logically or oh, it'll be okay, or, like how does that all work, or am I even on the right track with that?
Yeah, I think a really big part of it is it's slowing things down, getting out of our head, and turning the focus back on us. Because, I mean, in life, it doesn't have to be just during a divorce. In life in general, it's so easy to be consumed by everything that's happening externally and be like, well, that guy cut me off. This woman said this to me at the grocery store, like whatever it is. And in divorce, it happens a lot. My ex said this, my ex did that. And we
Yeah.
get so stuck in what the ex is doing or
Yeah.
what people are doing around us or those external forces. And we don't focus on what's happening inside of us. So being able to just take a breath, pause, pay attention to what we're feeling in our body. It's usually being triggered by something going on around us or by someone, but it's
Yeah.
like, why?
Mm.
Why, when he or she said or did that, did this happen to me? So it's shifting that focus back into the internal instead of the external, understanding, being able to even pinpoint, okay, I feel like I have an elephant on my chest right now. I can't actually take a deep breath. My chest is tight. And I walk them through lots of times in the moment and I make them kind of, yeah, name it. What are you feeling? Does it have a shape? Does it have a color? Does it move? Once you start focusing on it, does it
Yeah.
move? And lots of times it will. And it usually moves up because it's like you're acknowledging it and like it wants to be released, it wants to be paid attention to. And so it kind of like moves up. And then when you can release it, it's really interesting because then when that similar or same situation pops up, you might have that initial first reaction, but you can be like, oh, no, we're
Mm.
not going to do that today. And you're just so much more aware. So
Yeah.
long story short, I think it's taking the shift from the external to the internal.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the reason I asked that, because like I mean, a lot of the work that I've done for myself has been going from the more mental side to how does that feel in my body? How does this feel, when I'm taking this decision and moving forward or doing this other thing? And especially with the bravery and getting just more connected into the body side of things. And I have had a coach in the past who's been like, oh, like what color do you see and how does, and helped me move some of that, especially when I did the transition from having a part-time day job to just having my business as my main focus and not having that day job income anymore. Like it was the thing I'd been working towards and dreaming, but my whole body was freaking out and I was like nervous all the time and everything. And she kind of had to walk me through more of that. I think it's the somatic processes. Is that
Yeah.
like what that is, tapping into the body? Yeah.
Yeah, somatic and like our nervous system, right? So in those moments, you weren't so much, it wasn't your body's not going, "Ooh, I don't have the income, this like the stable income." Your body's going, "There's a lion chasing me." Right? It's survival. It triggers that survival instinct in us, which physically is us being chased by something a lot of the time. And so we feel it in our body. And if we
Yeah.
don't pay attention to it and can't kind of differentiate what we're feeling and when, it's really hard to regulate the nervous system. It's really hard to manage those feelings and to know what's what.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oof. Yeah, that's definitely how it was feeling at the time. Although, like, I did have the benefit of like my brain, the logic side was trying to be like, no, no, it's okay. This is what we wanted. This is this was supposed to be the goal. Like, part of me is going, why are you freaking out? And the rest, like, my body is shaking. And oh yeah, it was an interesting couple of weeks in that transition, that's for sure. So yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes like there's something that happens in our bodies too. It's called a stress loop. So when
Yeah.
we hit some of these, these feelings, if we don't like close that stress loop, so kind of take the time to feel what we're feeling and I mean part of it is thinking our way through it, but it's also feeling our way through it, then we can close that stress loop. If we don't close the stress loop, it can keep compounding and growing and show up in really weird and random ways.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think the amount of stress loops that I've been on, definitely. And yes, I definitely need to learn those skills about sort of like closing the stress loop for sure. Do you have any tips or anything like that for closing the stress loop?
First, you have to get really, really brave because you are going to feel things that you didn't know you were going to feel. Because lots of times, what we think our stress loop is or what we think we're feeling isn't actually that root cause, right? It's coming from somewhere else or something completely different. And so you have to be brave to
Yeah.
know like something totally random might come up and it might take you in a totally different direction than you thought. So
Mm.
but yeah, in order to close them, it's recognizing when they started, what caused them, and understanding what needs to happen for you to just close that and move on. Which a lot of it, again, it's trauma stored in our body. It's things actually stored that we have to release to close the stress loop.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd imagine like that's the benefit of working with a coach or someone like yourself who's on the outside who can help sort of guide you through that. Because like sometimes, the coach can maybe see something that you don't see because you're just used to telling the same stories or, can help guide
Yes.
that process. Yeah.
Yeah, because those stories that we're telling ourselves, they're essentially a defense mechanism, right? A coping skill. They've been
Yeah.
there for so long and they've helped us in numerous occasions, more than likely. So we get really attached to them. And one of the things I do in my course, like my program with the women I'm coaching,
Yeah.
is it's called root cause therapy.
Mm.
And it's getting to the root of what caused any trauma or any unlimiting beliefs that, those patterns, those stories that we're essentially living out. So it's getting to the root cause of those and releasing them from our body.
Mm.
And, going back to being brave. So I took a course to
Yeah.
be certified in root cause therapy, and part of it included a practicum. Well, I haven't done anything like that since I was in university
Mm.
25 years ago.
Yeah.
And the course study part was great. And then the practicum part, when I submitted all of my notes and all of the pieces for my practicum, I failed.
Mm.
And this is brave to say out loud
Yeah.
on a public forum, but I failed. And I went back because I was shocked. Like I don't fail at things. What is this? And she came back and said, yep, this is like redo this and this and this, and we'll take another look. I failed again. And at this point, I was really frustrated because I had built this successful career as a mortgage broker and I had done all these big, great things. And I went back again and I said, okay, I'm confused. I don't understand. What am I missing? And we ended up having the most amazing conversation. And I was able, and she said, I get it when you're coming from, this type of a business, this type of a work life day to day, and now you're opening things up to this. Like, we just have to shift a few small things. And we did that. And then I passed with flying colors. But the number of, like, when I failed the first time, I was like, I quit. I don't
Yeah.
want to do this. And I stayed there for a bit. And my best friend was like, you are not quitting. And I was like, yeah, I quit. And then, a couple days later, I processed some things and worked through some things on my own and went, I'm not quitting. Then when I got the second one, exact same thing. I'm like, well, like, something's trying to tell me I shouldn't be doing this. I made a mistake. I'll just keep doing mortgages. It's fine. And then again, process some things. I'm like, no, I've come this far. I'm doing this. So the the internal process we all go through is brave in itself if we can just stop and allow ourselves to go there. That's my point of my story.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I'm right there with you with all the details and the point of the story too. Like, I know for me, handling failure has been some of the hardest work that I've ever had to do. Like, I don't know what it was like for you, but like for me in my like earliest years of school, like I was like ahead of my peers, and so everything was easy. And then at one point it just everything stopped being easy, and then everything just like in high school just was way harder. Like we moved and I went to a whole different state with different schooling and everything, and it's like I missed a whole chunk of stuff that people had learned, and everything was just hard. And yeah, for me, like I had it at university. One of my earlier, like I changed my subject so many times. One of the earliest ones I was doing economics, and like, previously if I'd ever failed anything, it's because I did it at the last minute and didn't put in the effort. And so it was like, oh, well, if I hadn't done it at the last minute. But then here was this subject where it was hard and I did the work every single time and I failed it. And yeah, and like, I mean, I was what, barely 18 at this point, and I just was like, oh, well, that's a sign, I mean, like, I struggled through it. There's my sign. Clearly, economics isn't for me. And yeah, like, I just like shifted majors and just did all that kind of stuff. So, um, yeah, and I mean, sometimes like it could be easy to tell myself, like, oh, hey, clearly the universe is telling me that this isn't something that I'm naturally good at and I should just gravitate away from. Like I had parents who told me, who were like, oh, if you weren't instantly good at something, then clearly it wasn't your thing, and you like should give it up and find things that you're like instantly great at. So yeah, that story that you told, like, I mean, obviously, I don't think the same things now. And like, it's been this whole thing that I've had to learn and teach myself. And it's like, it's okay, we can fail, especially like with launches and marketing and everything like that, and putting things out there. And I failed hundreds and hundreds of times at this point. And learning that for business, like fail, 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 success, right? Fail, 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 success is kind of how that goes. And just that story that you told, like I really felt that one of just like that whole, like the bravery of you going back and saying, hey, like tell me what I'm doing wrong, like, and just like back to you, enough of me. What was the feedback that like was it because you'd been in like more financial sectors, and so you were like not elaborating enough or not getting in deep enough? Was that some of it? I'm just guessing, like, yeah, if you don't
I
mind me.
think it was, yeah, I think it was more, I didn't know how to color inside the right box.
Okay.
So as a mortgage broker, eh, I know what's gray, I know what's black and white, I know the box I'm coloring inside of. I know when to push, like I know all of those limits and all of those boundaries and how to maneuver
Yeah.
through all of that. And so I kind of went into this with like, well, I'm used to being my own boss. I'm used to doing things my own way. I'm kind of going to do the practicum how I think it should be done. And it was a huge wake up call that no, this needs to be done the way that the course and the program is set out for it to be done, because it's an accredited course, because you can get insurance through the international coaches, like all of that stuff, right? Like it's a well recognized course, which is why I chose to take it. So it was really just understanding the box I was
Mm.
coloring in. And she was great because, again, like she said, once you get your certification, then you get to decide what your business looks like, and you get to decide how you record things, and you get to decide how you're going to do a lot of this. But in order to get certified, we need you to do it exactly like this. So I just wasn't used to taking direction that, I think, right? Because I'd been my own boss and kind of a
Yeah.
free spirit for so long that I was like, oh, I actually have to do this your way. So
Mm.
yeah, I think that was a big part of it for me. But
Yeah.
again, it was really good because I look at everything as an opportunity. And like you said, you fail, 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 succeed. Well, you're just failing forward,
Yeah.
right? We just keep going, and everything's an opportunity to learn something else about ourselves. So how I reacted in that was like, whoa, okay, why did I just instantly go to I quit? And also, why did I instantly go to no, this is how I'm going to do it. You need to certify me.
Yeah.
But that it works really well in my mortgage business.
Yeah.
Doesn't work so well in the emotional side of things.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. I can imagine that. Like I've changed careers a number of times. Like my first career was in IT and project management before I moved into marketing and more creative side. So I can definitely, yeah, feel some of those shifts and that whole, oh, but here's how I've always approached it. And then it's like, oh no, actually we need to tap into new skill sets and yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do things how you're told to do them.
Yeah. You mentioned just before that, like, even for your mortgage business, that was your own business, right? And so like you were used to doing things your own way. And I think for some of us as business owners, or like at least for me, I find that like, I don't know, and maybe it's like because I'm in my 40s now too. It's like I'm like, oh, if I can see things and it's like, oh, but here's the way I want to do it. And then it's like, oh, no, but I actually need to do it this way to get the certification or like, yeah, how do you navigate through that like mentally? So,
Well, I think I've always done things my own way. And
yeah.
even in my mortgage business, and I've received pushback from it over the years as I really niched down to helping women. I received a ton of pushback, a ton of negativity. I've had to block people on different social media platforms. I have really struggled in that respect. And to me, that just kind of tells me, you know what, I'm doing something right. And today, for example, I talked, like I'm still doing mortgages, and I talked about my favorite quote being well-behaved women rarely make history. And I use that as a why I specialize in helping women with their mortgages and why I specialize in helping women during and after divorce. And I mean, it all comes back to certain things for me, but talking about it in the way that I talk about it ruffles some feathers and upsets some people. And so just putting things out there in the way that I choose to do them works really well for me in one respect, but it also means I get pushback and have to deal with a fair amount of negativity from certain
Yeah.
people. So I think it's learning. It's always a balance, right? It's like this is how I want to do things, but it still has to work.
Mm.
And so managing how, so I can't just stand on a rooftop and scream, using, I won't say the line from a Taylor Swift song, but it has a swear in it. And it's, F the patriarchy. I
Yeah.
can't stand on a rooftop and scream that, but I can say, I want to help women with their mortgages because historically women couldn't have mortgages. Women couldn't own property.
Yeah.
That drives me. I want to help women come out of their divorce feeling so different than before they got married, during their marriage, during their divorce, because we are inundated with messages from the time that we're little girls that if we're not in a romantic relationship, we are less than, we have less value, and that our value comes from being in that relationship. Our value comes from being a wife, being a good partner, being a mom, all of these things that girls and women are raised to be. And so I feel like I'm pushing back and saying, you know what? You don't have to stay in that marriage. You can choose divorce. And when you do, here's what's waiting for you on the other side. You can use your voice. You can be this strong, amazing, brave woman, and I'm going to help you get there.
Quick break to tell you about Brave Coffee Connections, my free monthly Zoom for coaches and service-based business owners. In just 60 minutes, you'll reflect on brave questions, connect in small groups, and finish with a visualization to set you up for success. It's not networking as usual, no awkward pitches, just real conversations that often lead to collaborations, referrals, and clients. Grab your free spot now at tiffanystudios.com/connections. That's TIFFANYG for golf, studios.com/connections. I can't wait to see you there. Oh my gosh. Oh, chills. Chills. I know that sounds so cliched from my side of things, but yeah, literal chills as you're saying all of that, because like it's definitely, oh man, I find it so curious that you speaking out in that way ruffles feathers. Like I know, like, sorry, this is where it's like, it should be obvious. Like there's certain people who I guess like they have these ideas about, women's roles, men's roles, the roles together, and yeah, and I know like women choosing to be single offends people, but it does my head in. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like I
I
understand
do.
it logically, but emotionally, I find it hard to really grapple with that people can have problems with this. And I guess that's a very naive viewpoint. Like, why can't people choose what they want to be? Like, isn't that the whole point? Like, and if it doesn't, if it doesn't directly affect you, like, you can go and find somebody who believes the same things,
Yes.
who's like, oh, and sorry, I say that like my parents had kind of a traditional marriage too, where it was sort of like, like dad took the lead. He was the control in the household, and yeah, and even now, like with my mum, who's like she had me late in life, so she's, getting up there in age, and so like she just has a different viewpoint on this stuff. And sometimes if I want to get her to do things, I get my husband to tell her something because she's like, "Oh, if the man said." And luckily she doesn't listen to my podcast at all. So it's like revealing the secrets, but like this is how like I, get her to to do things or something like that. Like not in a bad way, but just, like the doctor tells her to do something and then she's like, oh, I'm not really sure that that's right. But if I say, no, 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 the doctor said something, it's like, oh yeah, Tiff said. But if my husband says, no, 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 this is good for you, then, she'll do the thing. So
Yeah.
it's just, sorry, there's a lot of
No,
talking.
but that's
Yeah.
interesting. And that's a different generation. And
Yeah.
so the messaging that she received, that is absolutely, she is living who she was told to be.
Oh yeah.
Right. And that's where I had a very different mom. My mom divorced my dad when I was young, and she had her own business and she kicked some serious ass. And she taught me from day one, you always have a credit card in your own name, you always have a bank account in your own name, and you are always financially independent. And I mean, she taught me this when I was like 10 years old
Yeah.
and instilled it in me for the rest of her time on this earth. And I am so grateful for her and for that, because it is that advice is thanks to my mom that I was able to, when I was finally ready, I was able to walk away from my marriage because I was financially independent. I had done all the things she told me to do.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm forever grateful to her for that.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, like I also was given that whole, you have your own money and all like mum's an interesting dichotomy of like traditional wife and then like complete rebel on the other side of things of like, you keep your own money, you keep it secret if you have to, and just,
Which is amazing. And I think that probably shows that in a different time, she might not have some of those beliefs that she has.
yeah, definitely, definitely. definitely.
right? She was a bit of a, a boundary pusher in her own way.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I kind of want to go back to the like what you were saying about the speaking up, and I think like when like like how do you navigate the speaking up for what you want to speak up for? Because I mean, we all have to do it in our businesses. I think it can be so easy for any of us to be like held back by the, oh, somebody might say this thing or somebody might say that thing, or how like what's your approach to it, and like what are your tips and yeah.
I talk a lot about just making a decision. So it's consciously choosing and kind of you have to think like, well, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if I put this out there? What's the best thing that could happen if I put this out there? And I had the worst case happen. My daughter's gymnastics competition, sitting there with my ex-husband, and he says, huh, so I hear you're not doing mortgages anymore. I hear you're doing something else.
Mm,
And pure panic on the inside. Didn't say what I wanted to say. All I said was, no, I'm still doing mortgages, and just left it at that. And
mm,
that's a few things. One, he doesn't need to know. Like it's kind of a know who to share your information with. Part of it was the panic I was feeling on the inside.
yeah.
But underneath that panic was he actually doesn't need to know.
Mm,
He's no say in my life anymore. Like it's none of his business.
yeah.
So no, I'm still doing mortgages because that was the truth. So that was the worst case for me was what if he found out, what would he say? And
Mm,
then it happened and I was like, huh, okay, that wasn't so bad. And then I did another. So then I got a bit braver and I was like, okay, now I'm going to put this out there on a page for women in the mortgage industry that has over 3,000 women mortgage brokers in Canada on the page. And I got permission and I'm like, hey, can I share that I'm
mm,
doing this now? And the moderator was like, I am so happy for you. Of course you can. Let me know how I can support you. And so I put a post out there saying, hey, this is what I'm doing for your clients that are going through divorce. If they need some extra support, if they need some help, please reach out. And that was really hard for me too, because these are women that have only known me as a broker for 18 years. Some of them I've known for the full 18 years. And they only know me as Nicki the mortgage broker. They only know me at mortgage conferences. They only know me as one thing. And so it's shifting that label, those roles that we live under for ourselves first, and then being able to show up for other people and be like, okay, I'm now this person too. So
mm,
yeah, I think it's just consciously choosing what is within your capacity, what
yeah.
puts you up against that upper limit, what are you comfortable and able to do right now, and then tomorrow you can push further. The next day you can push further. The next day you can push further. So not trying to do it all at once because then you're going to overwhelm yourself and probably quit,
Yeah.
right? So, or at least quit for a time. Whereas
Yeah.
if you just kind of push like, okay, this is my conscious decision. This is what I'm going to do right now.
Mm,
And then when that goes and you go, huh, well, that wasn't so bad, then you get a little more confidence to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
yeah. Oh, oh, I love that. So, speaking of the confidence to do the next thing, what brave things do you have coming up what are your next things in the next 3 to 6 months?
That's a really good question. I think it is just continuing to put this out there. So, doing a post on my personal Facebook page, doing a post on my personal Instagram, and just saying, hey, everybody, this is what I am doing now. And I'm really excited. And I've had some really great success already. And I would love for your support. I think that's going to be the first thing I'm going to do. And then it's going to be consistency. So I'm doing workshops for women. So those workshops, they're really basic to start. So it's what can life look like after divorce? What are some reasons women continue to struggle after their divorce? And what are 3 things women can do to really thrive after their divorce? So, really committing to doing 1 to 2 workshops a month because that fear of no one showing up is very real for me.
Mm,
And what happens if no one shows up? And I've had to really go through that and be like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? No one shows up.
mm,
Oh, well,
yeah.
really, right? Oh well, I change my message and I try again.
Mm,
So really committing and focusing on those work and yeah, just putting this out to even more people of what I'm doing.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
fear of rejection. I don't
Yeah.
like rejection, and this is pushing me up against my upper limit on how much rejection I can take. And
Yeah.
it's not even rejection. The funny thing is, it's
Yeah.
not even rejection of me. It could be rejection of my message. It could be rejection of the time. It
Yeah.
could be rejection of the day that I'm holding the workshop,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But what do I see it? Oh, I've just been rejected by everybody out there. Well, maybe no one saw it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but that's completely normal, that fear of rejection. And like, I've been running workshops for years and I've definitely had ones where nobody came. So, like, that can be part of it, right? Like, it's totally handleable. And like, for those ones, I just always have like an alternate plan of like, so if nobody shows up, I'm going to record a podcast or I'm going to, like, so it's like, I'm going to do something powerful for my business and sort of that way I can shift into that power and that kind of thing. So yeah, like in the moment, obviously, and then,
Yes.
change the message. Or sometimes, like for me, like I do a series of workshops. Usually the first one I wouldn't get enough people for because like I would still be in my head, not quite in it, if that makes sense. But usually the second and third ones, I'd shift it up a notch and just because I had that series, like it didn't matter if people didn't come to the first one because I mean, like obviously repeating the same workshop in a set of three, if that makes sense. So not like people miss day one of 3 days of a continuing thing. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think it's intention and energy is a really important piece of it all.
absolutely. Absolutely. So you mentioned that you were going to put posts on your personal feeds. What scares you the most about taking that action, if you don't mind me asking?
Judgment. I feel like I've always been quite vocal. And I talk a lot about feminism on my personal page, but I always find it really interesting when I post a video of me and my horse, or a post about my horse or my dog, or something silly that one of us did. I get so much engagement and I
Yeah.
get, so many likes and so many comments. But if I post about feminism, if I post about equality, if I post about the big issues that I'm really passionate about, it's almost like crickets. I get hardly any engagement. So it kind of tells me where people are at in what they want to consume on social media and what they don't on the personal side. And
Yeah.
so I've been scared to put this out there because I don't want people to be like, oh, Nicki, we don't care. We like you as a person. We want to know about your personal life. Right. Whereas it's like, well, but this is part of who I am. And so I want to share it with you too. And so that's how I'm going to approach it, is just be really, I definitely have been told my whole life I am very honest, but in like a very kind way.
Yeah.
You're like, okay. And I often start posts by saying, heads up, this is going to be another long-winded win post. Win is my horse. And,
Yeah.
and then I'll type out a book. And at the end, I'll be like, if you're still reading, thank you. And then people will comment. They'll be like, I read all the way to the end. That's a fantastic story. And I get so much engagement. But when I talk about, how important it is to support women, or not just women, there's so many reasons we need to fight for equality. So whenever I talk about that, it's again, I just don't get the same engagement. So when I do approach it, it's going to be, I know some of you are going to roll your eyes. I always bring humor into it and be like, oh, what's Nicki doing now? Well, this is what I'm doing now. And then go into it. So
Yeah.
humor is my way of
Mhm.
handling uncomfortable things.
I mean, you could also experiment too with like if like something a story with you and your horse is what attracts people, weaving the feminism, like you probably already do that, but weaving that in. So it's like, hey, you came here for the horse, but let me give you what I really wanted to
Bait and switch.
be. But like in a nice way, like working with the social algorithm way, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. I like that.
nice. Okay, so it has been amazing talking to you this morning for me, afternoon for you, and hearing all of your stories about bravery. I'm so jazzed, and there's so much of this that I'm going to be thinking about for the rest of the day. For the people listening, there will, of course, be links in the show notes. But for people who are like me, who are like, screw the show notes, I'm going right to whichever social media platform. Where's the best place for people to get in touch with you and follow along and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, so I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, it's Healing You First Coaching. That's also my website, www.healingyouFirstCoaching.com. So that's where they can find me. I'm pretty much on most of the social media platforms. I share a lot of the same content, a little bit different. Instagram's always got something a little bit different on it just because of the platform. And then TikTok is a little bit different too, but similar at the same time. So whichever favorite platform is, I'm probably on there.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Are there any last words or last sentiment or anything you'd like to leave us with? And I'm filling in the time to give you a moment to sort of think about this because I know I'm putting you on the spot, but is there any last words you'd like to share?
I think I would say that remember that bravery is very personal. So what is brave for me might not be brave for you, and what's brave for you might not be brave for me. So we can't all fall into the same definition of what's brave and what isn't. So figure out what it is for you to be brave, what parts of your life you want to be brave in or need to be brave in, and then make those steps forward from there.
I love that. Thank you so much. That was so powerful and a great note to end on. Thank you for your time today and all of your amazing stories. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I love that you talk about bravery and that is your thing. I love it.
Yeah, it took me a while to get here, but here we are. Thanks for listening today. If you're ready to grow through deeper connections, join me for Brave Coffee Connections. It's my free monthly Zoom call for coaches and service providers. No pitches, just real conversations that spark collaborations, referrals, and new clients. Plus, you'll leave with clarity, inspiration, and one brave action for the month ahead. Save your free spot at tiffanygstudios.com/connections. That's TIFFANYG for golf, STUDIOS.com/connections. I can't wait to see you there. Thanks for listening to the Business Bravery Podcast. Has this episode inspired you to do something brave? Even if it's only send a difficult email, please share it with me on Instagram or other social media channels. Feel free to tag me at Tiffany G Studios. That's TIFFANY G for golf, STUDIOS, no spaces, no underscores, etc. Or you can use the hashtag Business Bravery Podcast so that I can cheer you on and together we can inspire other coaches and course creators to do brave things in their business and life. Now, I'm Tiffany and I'll leave you with this one last thing. What's one brave thing you're going to do today? It doesn't have to be big. Even the smallest steps can create the most massive results. So again, feel free to share it with me either publicly or privately so that I can cheer you on. That's it from me. Until next time, bye for now.